Can you escape your destiny? It's a fascinating story. One of those that really touches me very deeply every time I read it. We read the story of Jonah, Yom Kippur actually, the holiest day of the year, close to the end of the holy day. We read the story of Jonah. I just want to read a few verses with you because I think it has unbelievable lessons for each one of us as we try to navigate the journeys, the twists and turns of our own lives. Sometimes we want to avoid, we want to escape. And here is maybe the deepest lesson that you'll ever learn in life from Jonah. And here's the story. So Jonah is told by God, he says, go to the great city of Nineveh and admonish it, for their wickedness has come before me. Okay. Now Jonah was a prophet, commanded by God, but Jonah refuses to go. He arose to escape from the God's presence. And what does he do? He books passage on a boat thinking he can escape God and escape his mission. The story continues that God brought on a mighty storm, a wind over the sea and a fierce storm, and the ship began to totter, seemingly about to break up. The sailors were frightened, and they cried, and each one cried out to his God. They cast out various items from the ship to lighten its load, hoping to preserve and salvage whatever they can. And Jonah, meanwhile, went down to one of the compartments and lay down to fall asleep. And he fell asleep. The captain approaches him and says, how can you sleep so soundly? We're all suffering a storm. We're at the risk of dying here. This is life and death here. Rise, call to your God. Perhaps your God will think favorably so that we will not perish. Then the sailors decided to throw lots. Let's cast lots, because they believed that they could figure out with lots where this misfortune is coming from. And who did it fall on? Jonah. So they said to Jonah, they confronted him, they said, tell us. What is your occupation? Who are you? Why has this misfortune come upon us because of you? And he answered, I am a Jew, and I fear God of heaven, who made the sea and the land, because he realized that he can't escape God even at sea. The men were seized with great fear, and they said to Jonah, what have you done? Because they understood and they heard from him that he had run away, tried to escape God's command, God's mission to him. And then they said, what shall we do with you? So the sea may calm down. Now that you've exposed, that you've revealed that you're the cause of it, what shall we do with you? And here, listen to this line. He said to them, take me and throw me into the sea, and the sea will calm down for you. For I know that it is because of me this great storm is upon you. The men did not want to do so. Even to save their own lives, they didn't want to do that. So they tried to row to shore and try to some way get out of the storm. They couldn't do so. As it got more tempestuous, the storm, they prayed to God and said, please, we have to throw this man overboard because we know it's because of him. But let us not perish for taking this man's life. Do not hold us guilty, because it's you that brought the storm on. They took Jonah, they threw him into the sea, and the sea calmed down. Ceased from raging. That's the expression here. They still were filled with great fear because what they had done to Jonah. And then the story continues, and we all know the end. That God sends a whale that swallows Jonah, saves him, And Jonah recognizes his great mistake. But that line, let's talk about that line. I know that because of me, this great storm is upon you. We all have our destinies in life. We're all sent to this world on a mission. Don't ever forget that. Whether we ignore it, whether we embrace it, whether we're distracted, we have a mission. And there will happen not only once in our life, but at least once in our lifetime, when you will be called upon to serve. You'll be called upon to do something, and something you're uncomfortable with doing. And what do we do when we're uncomfortable? We try to avoid it. Some of us procrastinate, some of us delay, some of us ignore, some of us write our own narratives. We all have our ways of escaping our calling. But remember, it's your destiny, and it's your gift. It's not just responsibility, it's a blessing. It's a statement saying you need to accomplish something with your life that no one else can accomplish but you. And the very world itself will make sure that you live up to your calling. So Jonah goes onto the boat. We all go onto our boats. I'm going on vacation. I'm going on a safari, on a siesta. I'm going to find a way to numb my existential pain in life, or other things that we do to keep ourselves comfortable. And we think we can escape our destiny. You can never escape your destiny. Whether you're at sea or land, physically or figuratively, it will come back to haunt you. You can run, but you can't hide. We all love that line in Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. Because we have our calling. And one way or another, the cosmos themselves, nature, will all, I don't like the word conspire, but they will all work together to make sure that you remember. So we like to go to sleep and ignore the whole thing. You know, why did Jonah go to sleep? Everybody's frantic. A ship is about to capsize. Because he wanted to escape it all. The same reason he ran away in the first place. The people, they're sensitive. They could have easily said, here's a Jew, throw him overboard, who cares? No, they did not want to take a life. They understood there's a bigger story going on here. But it's Jonah that realizes, he says, the only way you'll protect and save yourself is if you throw me overboard. Because of me, this raging storm is happening to you. When we don't live up to our calling, think of it this way. Think of an artist or a musician. Create a big cosmic symphony, and you're not playing your part. Something is lacking. The whole symphony will come together and say, we need you to do your part. Because of me, this raging storm has happened. Things will happen in our lives and other people's lives. It's not a threat. It's not a punishment. It's just a reality. On the contrary, it's because of our great gift. It's because of how much we can contribute to life. So the sea itself rages. And finally, Jonah recognizes you cannot escape your destiny. We all have a calling. And if you don't fulfill your calling, something will give. Something will come back to haunt us. And we need to look at it from the positive side, as I said. And then what happens next? Okay, so the burden is off their shoulders right now because the sea did calm down, because it was Jonah. Because of him, all this had happened, as he said. So the storm calmed down. What happens next? He doesn't drown. God sends a fish of the sea. The very sea that he felt he could escape into. I think that the God is not there. His destiny is not there. That very sea has a whale. And that whale comes to save Jonah. And he realizes that. He realizes that it's actually protecting him. And ultimately will spit him out onto land to continue on his mission, which he does do, ultimately. And what's the story connected to Yom Kippur, connected to this time of year, connected in general to our lives? It's the story of forgiveness. It's the story of hope regained after loss. It's the story of love reclaimed after it was severed, after it was betrayed. It's the story of reconnecting to our very calling after we've betrayed ourselves. That there is always hope. But a few things are necessary: that we wake up, that we recognize that our calling is always going to demand from us to rise to the occasion, and you can never escape it. And finally, getting back on track and fulfilling the calling, fulfilling the mission we were given. Now, each of us has our mission. It's hard for me to spell out because there's so many different people, each have our own story. But think about the things in your life. What do you think is your calling? What do you think is your mission? And if you've never thought about it, maybe now is a good time to do so. And how distracted have we become from our calling? I will tell you this: the calling is always connected to serving, to helping, to giving, to illuminating, to warming the world around you with your unique energy, with your indispensable strengths. That's always a given. What those strengths are, you need to identify. So then ask yourself, so how far have you wandered? How far have you wandered away from your destiny, from your calling? And we get distracted by anything. We live in a materialistic world. We can get distracted by money, by our job, by sexuality, by our pleasures, by our desires, by temptations, all kinds of forces that seduce us. Some are nice, some are important, but a lot of it is actually the means to an end. The end is the calling. Are you living up to the reason you're here? And if you're not, all those voices within you, all the reasons we seek some form of relief, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's addictions, whether it's the fears and insecurities, these are all the storms that are created because we are not living up to our calling. You know, you take a machine, a computer, a smartphone, an appliance, and you don't use it what it needs to be used, ultimately it'll break down and you'll probably destroy it. Here it goes a step further. It won't get destroyed. It will keep talking back to you and saying, you're not living up to what you need to live up to. Do something about it. So it may be a storm in the form of a physical storm, it may be a spiritual storm, it may be a psychological and existential storm. But we will all have some consequence because it's your very calling that behooves you, that beckons you to do something about it. And it's actually our inner spiritual immune system that is saying, hey, wake up. If God forbid something is physically wrong medically with a human being, you want to know about it. You want a red light to go on. You want pain. Even though nobody wants pain, but pain is a warning signal that something has to be done. Imagine we didn't feel pain and our nerves were all numbed. What would happen? It would be the worst possible scenario. So what we need to know is look for the signs. Don't go to sleep. Look for the signs, the voices. And sometimes they're voices of anxiety and of insecurity and of fear, of discomfort. Those are the signs that are there to wake you. Hey, you've betrayed yourself. You're not on course. You've gone off. So it's actually those signs that we hate most that are the ones that are really our lifesaver. And don't be afraid, because the very sea that was raging ends up saving him. A whale will be sent your way, most likely not a physical whale, but some person, some experience, some encounter will come and redeem you. I remember an individual years ago coming to my classes. And he was a very interesting person, very intelligent, very handsome young man. He had money, he had whatever he wanted, to be honest. And he was quite busy with his own indulgences. And he went off, he told me he went on vacation to Hawaii. Where he would indulge every year, few times a year. He had his girlfriends there, he had whatever he had there. Yeah, I think he had a second home there. Anyway, what do you think happens? He's at a party, an event one evening, and suddenly someone comes over, announces, are there any Jews in the room? You have to be Jewish. Yeah, I'm Jewish. We need a minyan. A minyan is a quorum. There were 9 men. They needed someone who had to say Kaddish. Their father had died. So he went in to say Kaddish, and they're saying Kaddish, they're praying. And he starts talking to them. He starts getting to know who some of the people are. He met someone who he had known many years ago as a friend. His life changed just from that event. He says, I went to run away from God, to run away from purpose. He's the same guy that told me a few months before that. He says, I love your classes, but it's too much for me. It's too serious. It's too much about purpose in life. I have a lot of more years. I'm a young guy. I'm swinging around. I have a lot of fun. I have no time. I can't. Your classes haunt me. I go to sleep at night. I have a conscience. I feel guilty. What am I doing with my life? So he said to me, with all respect, because I love your class so much, I can't come. I can't come. Because it's just making my life uncomfortable. I smiled, Several months later, he shows up one evening, and I said, without mentioning names, I said, there's someone who actually made me feel great because I'm making him miserable. This is the first time I made someone miserable that I feel so good about. They're coming to this class. Anyway, here is a while later, he's in Hawaii, and he can't escape his destiny. It changed his life, not in any way that, some type of hocus pocus. He saw something. That anywhere I go, there's a certain reason I'm here. He helped out this guy later. They became friends. They went into partnership. It was a music business. And the point being was, it just reminds me of the story of Jonah. Now, he wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't running away from God. He was doing his thing. It wasn't like something destructive. It could be we're doing things that are actually destructive. We're not necessarily going there. But even smaller things, things that seem innocuous, that seem no big thing, but you have a calling. The whole world is waiting for your calling. And if there's a storm out there or in there, ask yourself, is it because of me? Not to blame ourselves, not to blame yourself, but to wake you up. To wake you up. And when you have that cognizance, when you have that higher consciousness about life, things happen that will help you grow. Yes, a whale will come. Somewhere, something will help you, propel you, will help you move forward and navigate properly. Because it is about higher consciousness. Jonah was escaping a higher state of consciousness. For whatever reason, he was uncomfortable, he felt he'd be not successful. There are many different reasons given. But you can never escape your destiny, and you can never escape your higher consciousness. Now, this can be between people as well. You may have hurt someone, and you're avoiding it. Maybe it's time to say, you know what, let me call that person and say, I hurt you. I'd like to ask your forgiveness. You don't know what kind of things happen when you take responsibility, when you're accountable, when you don't just bury it, when you don't just cover up, when you don't numb it and ignore it. That's the story, my friends. So I hope each of us can use this story of Jonah and the whale, as an opportunity of how to reclaim our destiny, to reclaim your calling, to reclaim your greatest gift, the reason, raison d'être, the reason that you are here. Thank you. Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life Center. MeaningfulLife.com is our central website where you can find this and many other programs, similar messages, ideas, very different ideas, a wide array of different topics that all talk about our psycho-spiritual lives, how to find deeper meaning in our life, how to be happier people, how to fulfill and realize our dreams and aspirations, and above all, the reason why we're here. Please, love to hear your thoughts, your comments, feedback, and please share with others. I believe this is a message every person on earth has to hear. I hope you agree. So please share it. Be well and be blessed. See you shortly again, soon.